Welcome to the Step Over podcast. My name is Josh. Thank you for joining. I'm joined today by a sports writer for the Charlatan, Carleton's newspaper. He's for some reason a Manchester United fan, but we won't give him too much of a hard time for that. And now he's a two-time guest of the podcast. Jayden Dill, welcome back.
For some reason, a Manchester United fan. What do you mean for some reason? No, thank you for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's really great to, see you again and to chat with you again. Summer's kind of wrapping up. How was your summer? Like, your time away from university life.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I stepped into the Charlatan sports editor position this year, so I'm expanding my range. Yeah, thank you. Not just from soccer, but into some other sports. So a lot of editing, a lot of writing over the summer. Even covered a couple of CPL games, watched a lot of CPL as well. And, took some time off to recoup, and then, it's back into it.
I mentioned off the top that you're a Man United fan, and I promise I'm not going to give you a hard time about that, but I do have a question I want to ask, like a real question, not just like, a smart ass one. Okay. So Man U is one of the names that has come up. It's one of the names that's come up the most as a potential landing spot for Ottawa's Jonathan David, currently with Lille. So Jayden, without your Man U bias, do you think Man U would be a good fit for David?
Yes and no. That's a little difficult question. I think under Ten Hag's playing style right now, yes, it would be a good fit. I do think, though, Ronaldo has to leave first. It can be tricky. I know some people would say, Ronaldo's older. He's not going to play every game. It's a condensed schedule. They're going to be rotating. But when you look at, Ten Hag's use of United, he's using Martial at the striker position. He's using Rashford at the striker position. And he still has Ronaldo playing at the striker position. And they still have great depth in terms of young rosters. Don't get me wrong, they need strikers and they still need quality forwards. I just think Jonathan David at Lille, he's their go-to man. And until Ronaldo leaves United to clear up more space, I don't think right now is a great fit. I think maybe he could maybe next year when Ronaldo leaves, most likely, would be a good addition, or even as a January transfer. I think Jonathan David would be good. Like you said, there's been rumors that Ten Hag likes him. I could definitely see how he could fit into the team. No, Jonathan David, not just a good finisher, but a good ball playing, just soccer player, a ball playing striker, and that fits exactly with Ten Hag's ideal style of play. So yeah, I think maybe it will happen. I just don't think right like this specific transfer window. I think if anything, January transfer window or next year's.
Interesting. That's exciting. I guess we'll see.
We will.
Okay. Now the last time you were on, it was to preview the men's national championships, which Carleton hosted, which Carleton ended up losing in extremely dramatic fashion in the final. So I wanted to know, like, where were you for that final, and like, did you see it live or?
Oh yeah, I was right in the press booth. That was it's funny because there's various different media outlets there, journalists, sports writers of all kind, right? And all from different areas, so there's no bias or specific person supporting a team. But when Daniel Asaf scored that tying goal, the whole media booth exploded with cheers.
Oh my
Not
God,
necessarily
yeah.
just because we're supporting Carleton, just the moment, right? It caught even, we were so into the game, just waiting to see what was happening next. And when he scores with the last kick of the game to tie it up, it's like everyone just is shouting like, whoa. So it's really funny.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. And like, the rule of thumb for all journalists is, you don't cheer, you don't support any team. All those rules went out the window in that moment because it was amazing. That whole tournament had so many ups and downs, and it was funny. I said Montreal would win. I really said they would beat Carleton in the finals too. I saw it just like that. I didn't think it would be as close as it was and as dramatic of a game it was. Carleton going up 1-0, Montreal tying it in the 90th minute with a great free kick, and then Carlton going down with 2-1 with like what 5 minutes to go or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, with the goal from Bruce, that was just chills on like you could feel the emotions in that stadium. Uh, just oh man, it was amazing. And then that 90th minute winner, it's just I did a little video project on the Ravens for my journalism class, and just capturing the audience. Oh my gosh, it was such a fun experience. Like it's hard to replicate uh, with words and with like just as telling the story, replicate how much energy was in uh, what was Ravens Perch, but's now Tag Field. So that's really really unique.
Is it giving you chills to like kind of talk about it again? Because it was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was one of the most exciting games I've ever seen. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Probably exciting, the most exciting Ravens game I think I've ever watched and ever tried to be like the most OUA best OUA game I've ever been to.
Definitely something that I'll remember for for a very long time. Now, the reason that I asked you on today, so I want to talk about the upcoming Ravens men's and women's seasons. So two programs, they're kind of different places. One
Joshua
looking
Spiller.
to improve on, like I'll say, kind of a mediocre season last year, and one that like nearly reached that mountaintop last year. So let's look at both programs for the season ahead. Like, what would you say are some of the storylines heading into the season?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think for the Ravens, it's going to be a bit of can they get back to where they were last year with a big roster turnover. I spoke to Quake Siloni this morning, and he told me that I think he said around six. I haven't fact checked it, but he says there's a very low number, like around 6, 7 players who were just returning from last year.
Oh, really?
The rest is pretty fresh, pretty new. They have he said probably the most largest turnover that he's experienced as head coach. So it's a very new Ravens squad that you will see coming into this season, especially for the next game.
Wow. Yeah, so you mentioned before we started recording that you were speaking with Dom Oliveri, the women's coach. Is there anything that like a hint as to, what are some things to look for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think you have to understand with the women's program that last year they had a very big rookie class. I think Dom even said at one point that uh, with it's a lot of rookie players, so you're gonna have a lot of rookie moments, and they did have a couple of rookie moments last year. There were some good moments, and there were some moments where they struggled. I think this year, they have more experience, and they're gonna, Dom mentioned very highly of the last 6 months. 6 to 9 months have been very solid for them. That it really is a close knit team, and he says that they are the fittest that they have ever been. But they're still working, to be the best they be. So I think you can definitely expect a better Ravens team than you have last year, but maybe not the best that they can be yet, because they still are. For most of them, still are only in their second year. So that should be an interesting team. It's kind of on the fence. It could go really well, or it might be a little underwhelming, but I do think you'll definitely see a better Ravens women's soccer team this year than you will last year.
Okay, interesting. Are there any aspects in particular for both squads that they might need to improve on from last season?
Yeah, I think for the men's side, it's there's kind of similar to almost like the men's basketball team. Such a cornerstone. They're really starting to really build a reputation as one of the top programs in the country, right? They're consistently going to youth sports, consistently being one of the best in OUA and best in the country. Um, the issue is, up until like the last 5 years, a lot of the success has been from that class of 17. Ricky Kamba, Conte. I think Luca Piccoli might be in that class. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's Ricky Kamba, Scott Mazzata, Gabby Bitar, right? You have a lot of those players coming out from the class of 17, or 18 and 19, right? So a lot of strong players there. Um, you're kind of towards the end of that class now, right? And a new class is coming in, and Kwesi spoke very highly of the class of 17. He says it's one of the most unique incoming classes that he has ever had, and that really helped build a lot of the success. And you can see with that unique class, it almost won him a youth sports national championship. So I think in terms of improving, it's really, you know, can you get this new group of players with the small group that you have from last season? Can you get them, get these new guys caught up to where they need to be, right? It's the Charlatan Ravens men's soccer team, so they're not bringing in no one and anyone. They're bringing in key guys, good players, right? Quasi has a lot of connections all over the country. So these players coming in, they're good players. It's just can they get caught up fast enough in their first year to continue the success story of the Charlatan Ravens?
Like on the women's side, are you able to give any?
Yeah. In terms of like I said, I think it's for them. It's to continue to develop their style of play. Dom Oliveri spoke that he's really trying to get them to be that possession oriented style of play. They're trying to be that possession based football team, and I think that's kind of the Charlatan philosophy for men's for soccer, for men's and women's soccer. It's possession based play, and I think that can be a very difficult style of play, especially when you have younger teams, right? But at the same time, if you want to build a squad or a program that where possession-based football is at their core, you have to start when you're young, right? And sometimes that means losing by a lot, or having those close games, or it can mean that you really have a group that gets it quickly, right? But you never know unless you really try and really work through it. And I think between Dom and Kwesi, they both believe that they can get their teams to being dominating possession-based teams that win, not just teams that have possession and do nothing with the ball, but they believe that they can break lines and create chances. It's just, can the team pull it off on a regular basis, and can they pull it off against different tactically set up opponents, as well as different opponents of quality, right? So I think that is one thing that we will definitely see on the women's side is look for the Ravens moving the ball a lot more, right? Being a little bit patient in their attack. I think that's one thing we'll see. So it'll be interesting. I think these teams may be a little bit more similar in how they play this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually works out into reality, not just from the playbook.
Okay, so we can kind of expect to see like a more defined Ravens style of play.
Definitely.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about Kwesi. I don't suppose it came up about his schedule, because not only is he head coach of the Ravens, he's assistant coach for Atletico Ottawa. How is he doing it?
Kwesi Loney, sorry, is a busy man. He is a very, very busy man. But I think you have to understand that it's never just a one-man show, right? He has a great coaching staff. They have a great system both in place at Atletico Ottawa and at Charlatan, that helps him really run a smooth ship, as well as be a part of a smooth ship on both sides. I think it's no doubt it helps that the team that he is, our assistant coaching in the CPL is in the same city as the team that he's the head coach of, right? So it's not like it's not a very far drive from.
It's a short commute.
Yeah, from TD Arena or TD Place Arena to Tag Field, Tag Park. Very, very short commute. I think what helps, and Kwesi said this, is that he has learned a lot being at Atletico Ottawa, right? He says it's a little bit different. It's a very professional environment over there, right? So he even said that expect to see some similarities from Atletico Ottawa into this Charlatan Ravens side, or into the Charlatan Ravens men's soccer side. I don't know if he means like in his coaching styles or in the tactical setups. I think maybe we'll probably see a little bit of both. If you're a true analyst, you might be able to definitely pick out the similarities. And I think you can expect that, right? When you've been coaching with a professional, football team or soccer team for the last couple of months, it starts to be sewn into you as a coach. So I think we'll definitely start to see, I guess, the Ravens look a little bit more professional, a little bit more like Atletico Ottawa, but still have their own distinct style. So I do know that Quaison is sticking around as head coach. He doesn't seem to be going anywhere. But he will be a little bit more busier, and whether that affects his tactical planning for the season, it doesn't really seem like him to let that happen. But like you never know, right? We never know how things could go. The season hasn't started, but as of right now, he's the head coach of Ravens MSOC. He's the assistant coach of Atletico Ottawa, and he'll probably continue to do both.
So for fans that are new to watching Carlton soccer, or just aren't familiar with with the roster this year, who are some players that they need to watch for?
Oh, so on the men's side, it can be a little bit hard to say. There are some, like I said, there are very few players returning from last year. But one thing that Coach Loney said in a little discussion today is that some of the players from last year and returning this year have trained with Atletico Ottawa over the summer. So Kyle Potter has been in there. Ricky Kamba was in there for a little bit. I think Scott Mazzata was in there. I'm not totally sure. I have to go back and check my notes on that one. But Tariq Hamad, I think was in there for a little bit. So there has been some overlap. Sorry, between the Charlatan Ravens top players playing in or training with Atletico Ottawa, sometimes to make up numbers, sometimes to assess, to analyze. But one thing that Kwesi said he took away is he now knows kind of the style of player or the type of player that Atletico Ottawa is looking for. So he believes that can help curate, I guess, more potential Charlatan Ravens to Atletico Ottawa players. Now he says that's definitely not a guarantee, but now that he knows what they're looking for, he knows that DNA, he can really start to mold and shape the younger generation. So maybe a bridge could be built in the future, but I guess that remains to be determined. But in terms of the specific players to look out for, probably still looking at those senior players again, who have trained with Atletico Ottawa. It's hard to determine the exact amount of those who have trained with Atletico Ottawa and those who will be returning until, I guess, really tomorrow. But we know the ones. Dario Conte, I think he's back. I think Ricky Kamba is back. I know Scott Mazzata is back. So those big names from last season will still be called upon again. But pay attention to some of the new Ravens name as well. But he did say that it's very difficult to tell. He's still having, the squad is making it hard for him to pick his starting 11 for tomorrow. So because it's still very close, right? Especially when you have a young class. So especially with the new guys, you really won't know until the opening couple of games to determine, oh yeah, that guy's going to be key for the rest of the season, probably for a couple of years into the program.
Interesting. Okay. And then any players on the women's side you want to highlight?
Sorry. Dom says, you can definitely look out for Chloe Doherty. She's gonna be, she was a key player last year. She's gonna be a key player again. I think he did mention, I think it was DaCosta Pacheco. I think that's what he said. It was like I said, literally 5 minutes ago. I got off the phone with him, so obviously haven't had time to review anything. But he did mention that Chloe Doherty up front is just always a cornerstone of this team, and going into her 5th year, she's going to be important, not just as a key player. As always, she's really a fundamental part of this program, not just as a goal scorer, as a someone who is a guaranteed spot on that starting 11, but really as a person to help lead this younger squad, right? Really she was key for them last year, really helping show the younger ones the rope, and she'll be key again as those younger players can continue to develop.
So for each team, what would you say are like a few of the biggest games on the calendar?
Ooh, so I actually did ask both of them this question. Sorry, I did ask both the coaches this question, and they both give you that this lovely answer, and you can expect it from both of them, that every game is an important game, right? Every
Yeah,
game is
yeah.
one game to watch. And like I said, that goes to show their mentality. They take every game very seriously, because every game matters in the OUA, right? There's going to be very few games where you can give people the day off, right? Every game really matters, because 3 points, they're very, very valuable 3 points. In here, it's like if you're in a Champions League race or a playoff race, every single year, start to finish. That's what it is for this program. It's very, very, very serious. So every game matters. Dom Oliveri, obviously, two big games is the Queens one. He really credited Queens. He says they're probably one of the toughest teams uh, in the province, if not the province, then in the country. He says so. He knows that they're going to be a tough opponent for him, and then he also, he loves the crosstown derby. Atletico Ottawa. Sorry, U Ottawa and Charlatan Ravens. He knows that's always a game that you can sit up for, because it's too close. Really two close rivals really going at it. So that's something to watch on the women's soccer side. I guess on the men's soccer side, Coach Gracie will tell you all of them. Just
Yeah.
just watch all of them, right? And when he looks forward to playing Queens, their locus, or other, I guess, the closest rival in this province. He did mention that going back to East and West is going to be very nice. Again, going back to the two division format over the three division format. So he says it'll be nice to get TMU, and it'll be nice to get UFT competition that they didn't face last year. So it'll be nice to see them after having a couple of seasons apart with COVID and everything. So I think, like I said, it can be difficult to say which games to mark on your calendar, because you really do have to mark all of them, because every game is very interesting with either Ravens men and women's teams.
That's one thing about university ball, is that like there's so few games that like it's a cliche to say every game is important, but when you're only playing X number of games, like yeah, they actually all do matter.
Yeah, one loss could cost you your season, essentially,
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
So I've been bringing up this idea as much as I can. So the GGs and the Ravens both have varsity women's programs. What do you think about this idea of having a panda game, but for soccer, like at TD Place, and like really hype it up?
Oh, definitely, 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 right. They deserve it, for one. Like, it's not even a question about quality. They deserve it, right? These are players that work hard, very, 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 very hard. Um, but I also think that, if to grow the game, you have to support it, right? And this is something that is very worthy to support. So I'm all for it. Yeah, I think if you have it for football, you should definitely have it for women's soccer. It's really like you have to come out to see these players. The game is not uh it does not follow the stereotypes of what you think, a women's game is. There's some very horrible stereotypes out there, that or people that think that they can define what women's soccer looks like.
They're all from people who haven't seen women's soccer.
Yeah, there are people who haven't really seen it, or maybe if they've seen, like, a very recreational version of it, right? These girls are they could be professional, right? Every single one of them has quality to be professional, right? And they work hard. Like, these girls work hard day in, day out. So there's like, you just like, don't judge the game really until you see it. I think once you see it, if you're someone who's had negative comments about it, you'll keep your mouth shut, and then you'll see that, oh, there's really quality here, right? This is it, there's really not much a total difference between the men's game and the women's game. At the end of the day, it's soccer, right? And it's good quality soccer.
All right, so Jayden Dill's on board. He's on the record.
I am on board for that, of
Go
course.
coach ya. All right. Okay, so we don't have too much time left. So before I let you go, can I get some predictions? Like, what do you think each squad's regular season record will be? And does either team this year have a shot, you think, at qualifying for the nationals?
Oh, I think. See, this might be the toughest year to predict for men's soccer. I think women's soccer will come close.
Okay.
I think they'll be hovering. I think they'll definitely be in competition for a national spot, or I would say at least OUA playoffs, right?
Okay.
I think they'll be hovering. They'll be in the battle for sure. Whether they finish in it or just below it, I think that remains to be seen. If I'm to be on the safe side, I think they'll just miss out, but they'll learn. They'll gain a lot of experience from it, and then they'll be back in the battle next year. With the men's team, it's difficult because understanding the turnover that they just went with the players. I think any other squad, you would say no playoff contention, without a doubt. With no McMaster, with the exception of a team like McMaster or Montreal, where you could say, they have great coaching, they have great, solid team, right? And they have a legacy for that. So maybe they would be playoff contenders when you have when you undergo a player turnover like the Ravens have. But knowing Kwesi Loney and knowing the experience that he's gained and how like well tight knit they are, you can't say they're going to be a team that's going to miss out. It's so difficult to say that. You really have to say they'll be back in the OUA playoffs for sure. I think he expects it. I think he expects to win the OUA division, whether or not they make it to nationals to Thompson River. I hope so. But I think it's gonna be. I think it's too close to call, and like I said, I want. But I'm not saying this. Don't no one quote me. I'm not saying that the Ravens aren't making U Sports, because I know that will come back to eat me. But I would say they'll make the OUA playoffs, but I think they might fall short around the semifinals.
Okay. Okay. That's
Similar to last year, I guess.
well, not many people would know better than you. So that's so we'll stick with
Yeah,
that. All
yeah.
right.
I'm playing
Okay,
safe,
but
playing it safe.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. All right. Well, it's been great to have you. And before I let you go, are there any upcoming pieces or personal projects you want to plug? And where can people follow you or find your stuff?
Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Jayden.Dill, or Instagram at Jayden.Dill as well. Or actually just follow the Charlatan sports sections. I edit most all the pieces that go up in there, and you would be really really intrigued to the amount of content that we have on Raven Sports. We cover all the G1, G2 sports, and we're even expanding to covering or close to almost every G3 sport, or at least once we'll have a story on pretty all the G3 sports up there. So everything Carleton University sports, the Charlatan sports section will have it. There are some definite a lot of things coming out from the Charlatan sports sections, and I'm going to be working really hard on all of them. So keep tuned. Follow me, follow the Charlatan sports on Twitter, and really tune into the Charlatan, and we'll keep giving you the inside scoops on everything Raven sports.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jayden.
Of course, no problem.